sessions that were led by Pepperdine University professors and the cohort members. It was a successful event which provided a useful platform to build linkages and synergies between the judiciary and other justice actors. It helped in developing an appropriate regulatory framework for training practitioners and capacity building to embrace alternative justice system in dispute resolution. Again, as part of their training, the cohort participated in drafting the alternative justice policy and strategy for the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, and the same shall be tabled before Cabinet for consideration and shall thereafter be in Parliament. This class has also participated in training retired judges, magistrates, and senior advocates in mediation and arbitration. These will help in promotion and implementation of ADR in our different courts in the country. They will also act as focal persons for implementing the judiciary alternative justice policy and strategy. Members of this court have started implementing what they have learned already. Myself and Justice Diabwire sit at the Court of Appeal Constitutional Court. We have prayed. A total of 60 cases were mediated. This has helped quicken the process. We are now receiving an increased number of requests from litigants who wish to participate in appellate mediation. Appellate mediation shall save time for the court and for the parties. It shall save costs for the litigants. It will reduce appeals to the Supreme Court. We gain by all that. Tomorrow and the day after, these cohort members will be participating in facilitating discussions on topics selected for the African Chief Justice Summit on Alternative Dispute Resolution, aimed at re-engineering alternative dispute mechanisms in Africa at Mistil Hotel, Kampala. We shall gain from their expertise. Therefore, this graduation is not only about attainment of degrees and certificates, it is also commissioning soldiers for ADR in Uganda and in Africa. I congratulate my classmates for their dedication and commitment towards furtherance of education amidst other taxing duties. The dedication of each of us helped us all to persevere and endure our classes at 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. after a heavy day's work. We had to do tests and exams over weekends and public holidays. We thank our spouses and our family members whose time we have been using to study for 1.5 years. Our graduation and attainment of Masters in Dispute Resolution and a Certificate in International Commercial Arbitration is not only marking an end of sweat, burning of night candle, research, and a path of academic pursuits of knowledge, but also a beginning of celebration of God's grace and mercy in attaining a skill to change this world. The knowledge acquired is a treasure which we are willing to share with mankind. This knowledge, particularly in promoting alternative dispute systems, will facilitate the growth of our societies in regard to socio-economic development, since litigation is costly and too technical for the ordinary Ugandan to understand, follow, or even participate in. Our duty now is to be ambassadors of ADR in its implementation and application. It is then that our qualifications will be impactful on the communities that we live in and serve. I call upon us all to be committed to cascading ADR in all our courts and ensuring that it actually succeeds. As I conclude, I thank you, the Vice President of the Republic of Uganda and the entire executive for always attending to judiciary functions as this one and supporting us in all our programs aimed at assisting the Ugandan public to access justice and our mission is to deliver justice to all. I applaud my Lord the Chief Justice, the Honorable Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, our beloved professors and facilitators from Pepperdine University, my classmate Professor Andrew Kauka, who did a lot, the Permanent Secretary to the Judiciary, and my classmates for the cohort, and the judiciary staff for the proper coordination, ensuring that we completed this course and we are attending a successful function. I finally commend my wife and children for enduring my inconveniences caused by the times at which I had to study. Thank you for always being available and accommodating me. Thank you all for listening to me. Let me take the honor and privilege to invite my Lord the Chief Justice to address us. For God and my country.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, who was our prefect in class. Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Uganda, the Vice President and Chief of Staff of Pepperdine University, until a few minutes ago, Deputy Chief Student, who has now reverted to the Deputy Chief Justice of the Republic of Uganda, and the cohort, which included myself. My Lords, Chief Justice of the Republic of Malawi, Chief Justice of the Republic of Somalia, Chief Justice of the Republic of Zambia, Chief Justice of the Republic of South Sudan, and your Lordships who are representing your respective Chief Justices, Chief Justice Benjamin Odoki, Chief Justice Bart Katurebe, Deputy Chief Justice Stephen Kavuma, Principal Judge James Ogola, Principal Judge Yorokamo Bamine, Head of the East African Court of Justice. I'd missed you, my Lord. Honorable Ministers, Members of Parliament who are present, the Principal Judge, your Lordships in your various capacities of the Ugandan Courts of Judicature. And then allow me, for the sake of time, to adopt. It is uncharacteristic of me to do this, but let me adopt the order of protocol after this. As you can see from the beaming on my face, I stand here with great pleasure. It's a great privilege, it's a great honor, Your Excellency, to welcome you to join hands with us, 11 of us, in celebrating these rather peculiar but very important attainments. I take this golden opportunity to congratulate ourselves, the 11 of us. And let me clarify this. The reason we are 11, it was deliberate, and I want you to believe me. If we were 12, there was the danger that there would be a Judas Iscariot. So we chose to be 11, and we finished faithfully. Second, unlike Cain in the book of Genesis, each of us, the 11, was our own brothers and sisters' keeper. So we moved on based on that principle. I take this opportunity too, once again, because I've done it numerous times, to thank the University of Pepperdine, the administrators, the leaders, and for this occasion, I'm not going to use the word professors or instructors, but I'll use the word teachers. Our teachers for this course, who have made it possible for us to stand here today and be the pioneers. We will go into the annals of Pepperdine University that we were the first group of persons who graduated outside of California. This is no mean feat. This is a huge achievement. But this achievement has been possible because we find ourselves in the company of a group of people who are buoyed on by faith and love for God's people the world over. A special group of people who find fulfillment were found with the leadership and the people of Pepperdine University. And in this regard, I want to hail my Chief Justice, Benjamin Udoke, because the one who sowed the seed of this relationship. He's the one who made it possible for Pepperdine University to land here and not leave. In a similar vein, I hail and recognize the role of my Chief Justice, Batka Turebe, for consolidating this relationship. Plea bargain, small claims, and so on and so forth, entrenched themselves during his tenure in office. My Lord, I'm glad that you were kind enough to leave the office for me. No, he had up to midnight of that day to leave office. He left it at 10 o'clock in the morning. So part of his tenure, I was acting Chief Justice for a few hours. I would like to report to you, my Lords Chief Justices, who preceded me, that we've raised this relationship from friendship. We are now companions. Pepperdine University is now the companion not only of the judiciary of Uganda, but of the people of Uganda, in view of the contribution they've made in the justice process, both criminal and non-criminal, in this country. For this, I would like to thank the leadership of the university who are here. Professor Danny DeWalt, Professor, I'll make sure I say it, and Professor Singh, if I say it wrongly, you pretend I've said it right. Sukisim Ranjit Singh. He has given me a take. He's always very mean with marks, but this time he has. Professor Catherine Rogers, Professor Alana Nasta, Professor Cameron, representing Pepperdine University here. I want to thank Pepperdine. People may not understand what it means to graduate here. What our brothers and sisters in Pepperdine have done is to transport Pepperdine across the Atlantic, across the continental Europe, part of Africa, to Uganda, to the gardens of the judiciary to hold this graduation ceremony. And in doing this, they have traveled so much of the world. If you want to measure the distance between California and Kampala, you can measure it in time, in terms of time, hours. California is 11 hours behind Kampala. We are now finishing the day. We're headed for dusk. In California, they're having that sweet sleep from which you'll wake up and then start the day. That's how far away Pepperdine is from here. But our companions have nonetheless lifted Pepperdine and brought Pepperdine here. And that's why we are gathered here. This graduation would not have had this pomp, would not have had this fulfillment if we had flown the 11 of us to Pepperdine. It would not be the same. But this is what it is because of the kind-heartedness of the leadership of Pepperdine University. And because of this, it's been possible for us to bring our parents. Professor Singh, we have come with our parents. The beauty of it is that these parents are our spouses, our children, and our grandchildren. One of my parents, who is 5 years old, when I asked her, said, "Amma, where are we going?" "We're going for your graduation." And then she added, "Will there be a cake?" Because in this function, there's cake cutting. She's there looking at me and smiling. So we would not have enjoyed this if we had flown out of Kampala. So I want to thank our parents for joining us and making this function really what it is. Now, Dr. Singh was, when he spoke here, he reminded me of the question I asked. Should a mediator be neutral or impartial? That's the type of course we were pursuing. You've got to understand your role, what your role is. If you're going to arbitrate, if you're going to mediate, if you're going to conciliate, what is your role? You'll meet, we discovered what we always see, but they have classifications, they have terms, they have, like there are people who are cantankerous in society. They enjoy conflict. I mean, they are not at ease, they are not at peace with the world when there is law and order. So they must always do something to stir the hornet's nest. Those are called high conflict personalities or high conflict persons. We had to do simulation for that. And where is my Lord Justice Chibita? Oh, he was the mediator. And if you want to know, he's a very composed person. He's a man of peace. I've never seen him angry. And many times I think it's not normal. Somebody should get angry to release the adrenaline. You get angry and then the adrenaline goes. Then my brother, senior counsel Francis Gemara. Where is he? Yes, he's senior counsel. He acted the high conflict personality. It was a beautiful simulation, beautiful. I laughed to myself. Gemara is himself composed, but he really acted the cantankerous person, the type of person you do not want in your village. And he's the only person who now moved the mediator to become impatient with him. I don't know whether your impatience was part of the acting or it was for real. So this cause, why is it is called alternative dispute resolution? Again, I had negotiated with the director of the Strauss Institute, dispute resolution, that my certificate should read original dispute resolution. I've seen some error in my certificate. I hope it can be taken back and corrected. But fortunately, it doesn't say alternative dispute resolution. So I think that was a middle way of satisfying both sides. In the United States of America, all non-criminal disputes, about 98% are resolved through what is called alternative dispute resolution, mediation, conciliation, arbitration, 98%. So what goes to court is actually just 2%. 2% of the disputes in the biggest economy in the world is what goes to courts of law. 98 is sorted out, not in front of judges, but in front of where you sit and you take tea together and you can pull your cigar. You can't do that in court. You cannot be smoking or drinking your wine in court. And then 95%, I think, of criminal matters, about that, I'm not specific, again, of criminal disputes are sorted out outside of court. That set me reflecting. And a study was carried out in Uganda here, very credible group of people whose duty it is to establish how much access to justice there is to people who seek justice. Why? I asked the question, why? Then I realized that 95% of justice seekers in Uganda are actually pursuing informal justice out of court dispute resolution to sort out their differences. And that's why there's no chaos. Otherwise, this would be a country which it would be a failed state, because there would be war everywhere, between individuals, between families, between clans, between tribes, between government and the people. It would be impossible to live here. And then I realized the situation that obtains here is a situation that obtains everywhere in Africa. That so much of the disputes between and among people are being sorted out outside of our gaze as judicial officers. Then we realize that what we need to do as justice providers, as people who are steeped in the legal profession, people who have been diverted to apply the justice system which was foreign here, it is incumbent on us to go back, promote and formalize that informal justice system which has kept our society, which has kept the fabric of our society together. And it is actually what made me now ask in 2019 when I was Deputy Chief Justice and I went to Malibu, Pepperdine for the first time. That's when I made the request, say, why don't we have a program, a master's program? And again, Pepperdine graciously picked it on, and we were delayed by COVID-19. We would have graduated maybe 2 years ago. Maybe this would have been the third class after the pioneer class. The argument is, if we promote our traditional justice system, trim the wings, bring it in line with what is acceptable, the level of access to justice will afford our people will be unspeakable. It will be at virtually no cost. People will sit under the tree. And the tree is so important to Africa. People will sit under the tree. In my Lord Chief Justice of Malawi, in 1995, yes, I was State Minister for Foreign Affairs. So we attended COMESA in your country, Lilongwe. We stayed in Sheraton Hotel. So what I normally do at home is what I did now. I went and sat under a tree and ordered breakfast. So when the bill came, I noticed it was not the ordinary bill I would have paid. I said, no, you've taken your breakfast under this tree. The tree is called, I think, kachere or something. Kachere, yes. It is one it is one of the species of fig tree actually with smaller fruits than the bigger ones. So this tree is where African elders, this tree, wherever you find it, that was where the courts, the parliament for African elders, that's where it used to be. So it is special, and that's why we're charging you more than if you took it there. And the informal justices in Africa today are not held in grand structures like this. They sit under the tree. They sit under the tree and sort of some of the most complicated legal issues or disputes. The one of Matoput, which has gained notoriety as Matoput, which my tribe were members of the Central Luo. If you take human life, we don't apply Moses' law of life for life or an eye for an eye. A system that sets in, a system which society, since time immemorial, and which still works up to now, during what we now call modernity. In one process, there is mediation, there is conciliation, and there is the possibility of arbitration if conciliation and mediation does not sort out. Then the top leader of society comes and arbitrates, guided by elders. We apply it up to now. I think in one recent case, very recent, a year or so ago, is it Kanyumunyu or something? Yes, where that custom was given recognition. A plea was entered, the plea of guilt was entered by the accused person, having pursued the other traditional thing of making peace with the aggrieved family. and then he was convicted and sentenced to a term more user-friendly than would have been if we had gone through the formal process only. So we realized we have this wealth, God-given wealth for dispute resolution. But we are so much corrupted in what colonialism gave us that we do not realize that we are sitting on a heap of wealth. And that's the purpose of revisiting. That's the purpose of asking ourselves to re-engineer the dispute resolution, which is familiar with the people, virtually costless, and instantly brings reconciliation, which a decision in a court of law can never achieve. We are now used, my lords, here we are now used to people who are bad losers who cannot accept that they have lost. So either the judicial officer has been bought or the judicial officer is incompetent. But with ADR, which I don't call it alternative dispute resolution, but African dispute resolution mechanism, you cannot say the elders have been bought because the elders will sit there. And in my culture, it is not adversarial. They'll hear from Dr. Singh, he will come up with his 7 points. They'll hear from me, I will come up with my 5 points. They'll realize out of the 7 that Dr. Singh has come up with, 4 promote peace and resolution. So they'll pick these 4 and bring it on the table. Then out of my 5, they'll pick 2 and put it there. So we have 6 very useful positions which they'll put together. Then they ask Dr. Singh that, we have not rejected the other 3, but let us, and then also tell me, we have not rejected the other 3 or 4. Let's see, let's dwell on this. By the end of the day, I will never remember the other one that was left out, because this one has given me a solution. You have disputes in the villages where people are so mad against one another that they do not drink from the same water point. Just because the other person gets water from this water point, you prefer to go a longer distance to get water, just because of that bitterness. But when the dispute is resolved out of court of law, outside court of law, each party will realize the folly of continuing with bitterness, with discord, and from under the tree, they will go home together, now talking. They will stop at a joint and take some local booze and go home singing. So we believe that it is incumbent on us to re-engineer our justice mechanism in this country, to re-engineer in Africa. I did conflict resolution for my master's. That was 2005. That dealt with macro conflicts. What we studied under Dr. Singh and team deals with micro conflicts, individuals. The other one was the canopy of conflict between states or within states. It is then that I realize that for much of the conflicts in Africa, we need to focus on traditional justice system if we want to bring closer to these conflicts. It was during this study, my Lord's Chief Justices, that I landed on the process that was applied in Mozambique. in the conflict between Frelimo and the other one of Alfonso de la Cama, it was not possible to prosecute anyone. It was not possible to even think of compensation here and there. So they left it to mediums. The others, there were other spirit mediums called Cuandero in that society. They are the ones who dealt with society. Society went through cleansing. Amazing. And they were able to leave the war behind. This can be applied, and in the Maghreb, North Africa, what the Arabs call the western part of Arabia, the Maghreb, their culture is, if my brother takes somebody's life, my family, of course, they will leave me behind. My family would submit themselves without arms, carrying their hands on their head like this, to the family that is aggrieved. Submit themselves and say, we are at your mercy. And the tradition is, once they've come like that, they've really admitted responsibility. You do not harm them. You find this in Africa, you find this elsewhere, but it is not the type of things you find in the Western world. For them, there's always been formal justice, tooth for a tooth, until recently they stumbled on alternative justice mechanism, which to us is the original justice mechanism. The only difference is that they have developed it, they've formalized it, they've allowed it to take precedence over the adversarial justice system. And this explains the need for us. And it is easier for us because it is in sync. It is in our DNA, if I can use this expression. Your Excellency, Pepperdine University also helped us to train some 40 retired judicial officers, senior legal persons, and others to be the foot soldiers for mediation, that is court-generated mediation in this country. My plea to you, Your Excellency, is to stand with the judiciary. This is where the government of Uganda should invest their budgetary funds. If we have 500 mediators in this country, whom we can deploy everywhere in every corner of the country, you pay them fee, you pay them allowances, fee for the work done. These trillions of shillings locked up in the commercial division of the High Court alone would be history. So much of our pieces and chunks of land that is locked up by orders of injunction, temporary injunction, because there are disputes over them, would be history. And then other commercial disputes. It would make for a more stable society. It would make for a society at peace with itself, and it would reflect immediately and directly in our economic performance, an increment in our GDP, and then development. So we look to you, Your Excellency, to stand with us. What you did this morning, we believe you can do it with regard to our budget. What the Honorable Minister reported on, where your cabinet immediately saw the importance of promoting policy, alternative justice policy here, with a view to coming up with legislation. We're holding our summit tomorrow and the day after, for which my brothers here have already arrived alongside other justices who are representing their countries. We look forward to the government, the central government, playing a role in coming to share with us the views of your excellencies on this very important conference, two-day conference. This is going to be a precursor for the summit, the conference that will take place in Switzerland. And in this, the one of tomorrow and the one in Switzerland in July, has the very well pronounced hand and participation of Pepperdine University, all geared towards ensuring that justice seekers the world over get justice without burdening themselves with impossibilities. Otherwise, Your Excellency, let me reiterate our appreciation for finding time to come and share with us, despite your evidently very busy schedule. But before I invite you to speak to this very happy gathering, I request you to give awards to persons who have, over the years, led the judiciary and were very instrumental in founding, cementing, and building the friendship between the judiciary of Uganda and Pepperdine University, which has now become a companionship. So I ask the Chief Registrar to come and take over from here before I invite Her Excellency to come and address the gathering. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, my Lord, the Honorable, the Chief Justice. We are going into the time of awards, and Her Excellency, the Vice President, will be handing over 2 awards, and then the rest will be done by the Honorable Chief Justice. Your Excellency, I humbly request you and the Honorable Chief Justice to stand so that you give an award. The first one is going to the Honorable Chief Justice Emeritus Benjamin Odoki. My Lord, you're very welcome to receive your award. Your Excellency, as your award, allow me to invite Professor Danny. Professor Danny, come and share some highlights. PRO, I request you to open the award so that CJ Emeritus receives the actual, not the box. Professor Danny, please, you can come.
So
Congratulations, my Lord CJ Benjamin Odoki. A round of applause. Thank you so much. The next is going to be to the Honorable Chief Justice Emeritus, Bat Magunda Katurebe. That is also going to be given by Her Excellency the Vice President. Congratulations, my Lord Chief Justice Emeritus Katurebe. Thank you so much. Congratulations, my Lord. Thank you so much, Your Excellency. I humbly request you to take your seat. The next set are going to be awarded by the Honorable Chief Justice, as we advised. My Lord Chief Justice, you are awarding the next group, my Lord Chief Justice. No, from there, and then we will proceed. So the next one is the Honorable DCJ Emeritus, Stephen Kavuma. And as he comes, okay, so the Vice President has advised that we do something a bit different. So my Lord Chief Justice, I request you to sit for a minute. Professor, please come.
Thank you, CR. Your Excellency, the relationship between the judiciary of Uganda and Pepperdine University actually began 18 years ago when Bob Goff, my law partner, who many of you know, and Danny DeWalt, myself, were invited to come to Uganda by Ralph Ochen and his family. When we landed in Entebbe in the spring of 2006, we drove straight to this High Court building, and Ralph was the Secretary of the Judiciary at the time, and he arranged permission with Chief Justice Benjamin Odoki to meet with us. And that was our first meeting of any Ugandan in the beginning of this relationship. Ralph Ochen and Benjamin Odoki were the first Ugandans to welcome us as friends. We wanted to help with what was going on in the north. And CJ arranged a military escort for us to travel north. And in our observations, we noticed the courthouse was closed. Because it was not safe for justices to be there, and many children were not going to school. And so, a short time later, with a partnership with Justice Principal Judge James Ogola, who was PJ at the time, and Lady Justice Stella Arach, God rest her soul, and Justice Paul Gadenia, we reopened the court in Gulu together. Do you remember that day, Justice Ogola? Then we built a school in Gulu called Restore Leadership Academy, which stands today with over 1,600 students, some of whom have graduated law school now and work for Pepperdine in our Uganda Public Defender program. A few years later, we sponsored a judiciary conference and brought with us 2 Pepperdine students. Those students went home and inspired our law school dean, Ken Starr, and law professor Jim Gash, now the president of Pepperdine University, who began to bring students from Pepperdine Law School to intern for the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeals. About that time, DCJ Justice Stephen Kavuma carried the torch of this relationship, and our internship program grew. And the collaboration and integrating of plea bargaining into the criminal justice system was born. Judicial delegations began to come to Pepperdine to study and to work out the implementation of plea bargaining. This relationship between Pepperdine and the judiciary was beginning to take shape when Chief Justice Bart Katarebe took the reins and brought a delegation from the judiciary to sign a second MOU and to expand the relationship from the judiciary to JLOS. He appointed PJ Yorokam Bamwine, who quickly became the national voice for sensitizing the country to the benefits of plea bargaining and case backlog and overcrowding of prisons. During the formation of plea bargaining, we were greatly assisted by the DPP, Richard Butera, and the Deputy DP, Amos Ngalobi, who worked tirelessly on the ground to engage prosecutors. Soon thereafter, Justice Katarebe brought a delegation to Pepperdine, including the new DP, Mike Chibita, and the Minister of Justice, Kahinda Otafire, and the PS, Dorcas Okalani. Under their leadership, plea bargaining became a nationwide rollout. In recent years, the baton was passed to CJ Owenidolo, DCJ Richard Butera, PS Pius Bajiramana, and DPP Lady Justice Jane Frances Abodo. This is the age of innovation. Under their leadership, we have formed a public defender program in Makono that is now extending to additional magistrate courts around the country. And word has escaped your borders, the borders of the Pearl of Africa. Ghana, welcome to our esteemed leaders of Ghana, has now passed its plea bargaining legislation in partnership with Pepperdine and has opened a public defender office and is rolling out plea bargaining. Rwanda is in the middle of a nationwide rollout in plea bargaining and ADR in partnership with Pepperdine. Nigeria, Lagos State, is implementing justice reforms in partnership with Pepperdine, and there are at least 5 other African countries that are presently in discussion with us to begin a partnership to assist with their goals for justice reform. All of this from the spark of courage and leadership here in the judiciary of Uganda. And now here we are. From that first day to the present, there have been a few key stakeholders who have advanced the administration of justice in partnership with Pepperdine that we would like to recognize today for their immense contribution. There are others who are here that have made groundbreaking contributions that I have not mentioned and are not being recognized today, and they are still making groundbreaking contribution, the likes of S.G. Francis Atoke, Justice Jeffrey Chiriaburi, Justice Mike Chibita, Minister of Justice Norbert Mao, and others. Fear not, your day will come, and we shall revenge your generous and important leadership in this partnership. But today, we are honoring the historicals. We have begun already. As I mentioned, our first honoree was the very first meeting we had and the very first pioneer of this relationship. Without his vision and generosity and friendship, this initiative would have never left the ground. Of course, this gentleman continues to have national and international impact because of his courageous leadership and deep love for this country and East Africa. Please join me in congratulating again, who has already been honored, Chief Justice Emeritus Benjamin Adoki. Our second honoree, who Your Excellency has already awarded, has held many of the highest offices in Uganda over a decade long of public service career and is worthy of many accolades. But his leadership in this relationship was bold and unreserved, and he made this plea bargaining intervention truly transformational. When we began plea bargaining, the average time to trial was 5 years. Today, the average is 1.2 years. During his tenure as CJ, We worked so closely that we became family friends, and he calls my daughter Jenna his American daughter. Please join me in congratulating again Chief Justice Emeritus Bart Magunda Katurebe. We have spoken of pioneers, those who took on a new and innovative idea that had the courage to lead and persuade others to engage in the initiative with charisma, to win the day and mark a path for transformation. Without the pioneers, we would not be here today. This honoree was among the first to come to Pepperdine and establish an academic and intellectual relationship with Pepperdine to work out how to integrate and apply an American system into a Uganda system, which was a long and complex process. And yet look at the fruit his pioneering efforts have produced. Please join me in honoring, my Lord CJ, if you would make the award, the Honorable Deputy Chief Justice Emeritus Stephen Kavuma. One of my dearest friends beginning in 2007 was the late Lady Justice Stella Arach-Amoko. Stella was the first High Court judge that I worked with. Together with Justice Agola, she was instrumental and fearless in reopening the court in Gulu. She was present and spoke on that day. Of course, she was later appointed to the Supreme Court, and together we led many annual plea bargaining conferences and Women in Leadership conferences with CJ Katurebe. We shared stories about our families, and we shared meals together in my home. She was a true pillar of this relationship, and I miss her dearly. Please join me in honoring posthumously Honorable Lady Justice Stella Arach-Amoko. And CJ, could I ask you to receive the award on her behalf? Speaking of courage and pioneering, back in 2006, it was quite unpopular to consider braving the region of insurgency in Gulu and its surrounding communities. But when we met with PJ Agolo, he didn't hesitate. Not only did he officiate the opening of the courthouse in Gulu, but he began appointing High Court judges to reopen the cases and restore justice in the north. Of course, this gentleman has been a pillar of leadership in the judiciary and also a wise and erudite ambassador for Christ in this country. One does not sit in his office for any length of time and come out the same. We are left with wisdom, kindness, friendship. Please join me in honoring my old friend, the Honorable Principal Judge Emeritus James Ogola. Your Excellency and my Lord CJ, with your permission, we would like to interrupt with just a brief moment. Justice Ogola would like to say a word and invite us to honor the late Ken Starr. Justice Ogola.
Thank you very much, Vice President. Ken Starr was the Dean of Pepperdine Law School at the time that these things were happening. I happened to lead a delegation to Pepperdine, and he was elevated to be president of a law school in Texas. He's no longer with us, but he was a personal friend. He attended the launch of my book around 2009, I believe, Songs of Paradise. I want to dedicate this to Ken Starr. Could you please stand up with me for 1 minute of silence for Dean Ken Starr? May he rest in bliss and in peace.
Thank you so much. Next up, The Bible starts, in the beginning, God. And that is our story here. This kind of relationship can only be the result of God's hand and blessing. And right after that, the story continues. In the beginning, there was Ralph Ochan. It is a long story. I cannot repeat at the moment, but suffice it to say that Ralph was at the beginning of the creation of this relationship. Ralph was the hands and feet and heart and vision of God for this relationship to be born. Ralph was the open arms of invitation to become friends and brothers and sisters in justice work in Uganda and across this continent. He was the founding member of the board of directors at Restore Leadership Academy that permitted us to build a school for kids in the North. And we quickly became family nearly 20 years ago, and we are family today. Please join me in honoring the Honorable Justice Ralph Ochan. A couple of years before COVID, C.J. Katarebe brought another delegation to California. And with courage, he brought with him Major General Kahinda Otafere, who was the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs at the time. We invited him to speak, and within minutes, all of Pepperdine was on fire. General Otafere caught the vision of this relationship, and it was during those discussions that the evolution of a pilot program for public defense was born. He was also enamored with the idea of a Pepperdine campus in Uganda, which we are currently considering. This was the first time a minister of justice visited Pepperdine, and the impact of that visit fueled the season of exponential growth in this partnership. Please join me in honoring Major General Kahinda Otafere. I think my Lord CJ, perhaps, Minister of Justice today, can receive this on his behalf. There was a time early on when plea bargaining was just forming, and we needed, of course, to collaborate with the DPP and the state attorneys across the country. Plea bargaining was new to the country, but it was particularly challenging for changing the way prosecutors thought about their job and executed justice in this country. We needed a champion within the prosecution to smooth the way so that discussion and collaboration could happen, and we found that in this honoree. Without the DPP and state attorneys, our partnership would have stalled from the beginning, and this gentleman brought the prosecutor's perspective to the table. Also one of the great pioneers of this relationship, please join me in honoring Mr. Amos Ngalobe. I met I met this honoree sometime 8 or 9 years ago when she came to Pepperdine with one of the Katerebe delegations. She was the PS at the time. She was kind and gentle, and with her keen mind asked many questions to understand plea bargaining and who were these Americans. We quickly formed a friendship, and she became a central figure for our teams coming to Uganda. She served graciously as a mother figure for our interns when they spent their summers here working, and was in the seat of PS during one of the great expansion times of this relationship. We owe a great debt of gratitude for this delightful and insightful leader. Please join me in honoring our friend, Ms. Dorcas Okolani. Last, but certainly not least, after C.J. Owinidolo took the baton to lead the judiciary, I had the opportunity to meet the new permanent secretary. Of course, we all know that C.J. Owinidolo came into office with his ambitious judicial transformation agenda. About that time, these towers were about to break ground, and now here we are. I began meeting with the permanent secretary in his office each time I came to Uganda. Each time he would embrace me. And of course, I always had many meetings and a tight time schedule, but once in PS's office, I always lost track of time, and I forgot that I had another appointment. I have learned so much from this leader, and he has been instrumental in ensuring that the vision of the CJ would be fulfilled, including this ADR cohort we have graduated and celebrated today. He has taken this relationship to a whole new level, and he has looked me in the eye and said, "This is a lifelong relationship. This is something that will stand the test of time," and so it has. Please join me in honoring Dr. Pius Bajirimana. On behalf of Pepperdine University, I would like to congratulate all of our honorees today. Your Excellency, my Lord CJ, that concludes our awards ceremony.
Your Excellency, it is my pleasure to invite you now to speak to the gathering and close the day. Thank you.
Please have your seats. Your Lordship, the Honorable Chief Justice, Your Lordship, the Deputy Chief Justice, the African Chief Justices present, and the Chief Justices Emeritus, the Honorable Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, Your Lordship, the justices and judges of the courts of judicature, both the retired and the serving, the Vice President of Pepperdine University, the graduates, the Permanent Secretary, Secretary to the Judiciary, the families of the graduates, all invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. God is good
all the time.
and all the time.
God is good.
I can hear the loudest person is the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs. Little wonder that he's celebrating a fresh achievement before he even completes the other one of last week of Kwanjula. Which he thought it was secret, but it became a public secret. But let me bring you warm greetings from His Excellency General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the President of the Republic of Uganda. He sent you his warm greetings. And Mama Janet Kataha Museveni, who is a minister in charge of all these graduates of today, the line minister. And I bring you blessings from all of them. I bring you blessings from all of them, and indeed all members of cabinet. I like the way the director of ceremonies today described the cohort of the 11. That none of them asked for a dead year. No one has a retake. No one even dropped out voluntarily. And that reminds me of my early childhood days. When I was growing up, there was a justice called Ignatius Malinga. Justice Ignatius Malinga. I don't know whether any of you knows him. But he was a very close friend to my father. As children, when we were growing up, he's one of the key friends that we knew was close to our father, our biological father. And whenever he would come home and sit down and talk to my father, you would see flowing conversations between him and my father. Of course, my father had all categories of friends, being a primary school teacher. But we would always ask him why this justice particularly is diplomatic in everything that he was doing. And my father used to tell us that the members of the judiciary, the members in the legal profession are easily distinguishable from others. And distinguishable in a good way. I am sure the Chief Justice was waiting for that. I know him as a man of the details. So, the ceremony of today has made me to reminisce that description of members of the judiciary by my father a long time ago. That the whole class that enrolled on day one, all members of the judiciary have all graduated on the last day today. Distinguishable in a good way. But also the 11 instead of 12, avoiding Judas. The members of cabinet were saying when I came that tell the Chief Justice that in the next class they are willing to enroll. Because the minister, when he was giving a presentation on the conference of tomorrow, also alluded to the ceremony here, and he invited members of cabinet to participate in the next cohort. I don't know whether there will be 12. And the next thing is that I don't know whether they will be distinguishable in a good way at the end of the, after taking the cohort. But I want to assure the president is the one who, the vice president is the one who saying, we need hope. You have full hope for members who would like to enroll, but also to enroll to do what this course is all about by implementation. I have attended graduations, very many graduations, but this is the first graduation that I attend. And all the graduates, all the graduates now are still seated even after receiving their awards. They are still seated. The first. I have attended as a graduate, I've attended as a guest. I've also attended as a chancellor because I'm a chancellor of one of the universities. But this is the first that I attend, that from the beginning of the ceremony, the graduates are seated, and up to the end, after receiving their awards, and they are still seated. They're 11. Distinguishable in a good way. And I want to congratulate them for setting a good example to graduates. I know that the messages have been articulated by the leaders who have spoken before me. The message which apparently I'm going to articulate is for His Excellency the President, who was supposed to have been here, but because of other equally demanding state duties, he decided that I bring his message and I read it to you. And I want to thank the Chief Justice and the team for accepting me in this congregation. The Chief Justice was describing the ADR, the Acholi way, Matoput. A person from Teso can also describe it as Ailuch. In Ateso Matoput is Ailuch. And I'm sure all the Chief Justices there have a way of describing it. And it is even being practiced. I have seen my auntie there, Abodo, Justice Abodo. She's my auntie culturally. We are the people of Topotha. And you know the Topotha are in Turkana, then Karamoja, and then Teso, and then Ethiopia, the Oromo. So I saw her, Chief Justice, and I was thinking in my mind that much as they are our uncles and aunties, we have a conflict, which is almost a daily thing. And I was imagining how you can collect all those cases and bring to courts of judicature. One cow has been stolen today, another goat tomorrow, the other one the other day, another one the other day. And these are people who speak the same language. When I speak in Karamoja, in Ateso, they understand me. The other day I was in Kenya in a place called Katakwa, Amagoro. I spoke in Ateso, I addressed a rally in Ateso. I can go to Topotha and speak in Ateso, they will understand me. Another message that this ADR will enhance our oneness. Because the people will always go as a family to seek justice on behalf of one person in their family who has committed an offense against another family. That is the African culture. And they can go as a clan to the other clan to request to speak to them outside the modern courts of law to resolve the conflict. They can even go as a tribe in case the case is across tribes. One tribe can go as a tribe and say, we have come as the other tribe, you are our neighbor, we want peace. So I want to assure you all that government, His Excellency the President, supports the ADR. And that's why we are requesting the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs to come up with the policy so that we can mainstream it, since it's already taking place, so that we can sensitize all the people, the population, since they are already practicing it, And I want to believe that the hope which they had requested for is already alive. The hope is there. We cannot go wrong with this justice system. I want to thank the members of the judiciary who have traveled from far, different countries, the chief justices, in your different capacities, to come here for especially tomorrow's conference. The African people, as I have already described, are the same. And that's why when we are dealing with this ADR, we also have the component of brotherhood. In the recent African Union, the 37th Assembly, the president of Brazil came and spoke. He said, for us in Brazil, the people of Latin America were very sure that we are of African descent. And therefore, it goes beyond Africa. Like the Chief Justice says that even the United States, the ADR, 80% of the cases are in ADR. So that thing means that it is humanly possible to implement the ADR. I would like to thank again one person here before I read the President's speech, the PS Docas Okalany. Apart from interacting with the other Justice Malinga Ignatius, again, the closest time I came to understand the judiciary, including you, the Chief Justice, and the team and everybody, Chief Justice Batu Katurebe, Chief Justice Benjamin Odoki,